Okay, so it came to my attention that with all the critiques that I have done, I have not talked about the very first silent film. So I'm going to talk about that because, you know, it seems obvious that I should talk about that. So the first silent film is called Sally Gardner at a Gallop. And it's, of course, the horse galloping. And if you've never seen it before, I will, of course, put it in the description for you. And it is, I actually talked about this in my history of photography class. And so how it turned out was this owner of race horses called Leland Stanford, I'm sorry, not Stafford, Stanford. He, he trained, bred, raced these horses and had trotting races, and he wanted to improve the performance of his horses and had, questions and everything, like these scientific questions. They have to understand that when this was filmed, it was the 1870s, 1873 at this point. And photography was still very new. It had only been around, I think, technically 1840s, like the late 1840s. So 20, 30 years. And so this Muybridge, I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that right, he was hired, and of course, as a photographer. And this horse's name was Occident, or Occident, one of those. He was supposed to photograph this horse in action. Now, this photographer, Muybridge, thought it impossible to get a good picture of a horse in full motion. Motion photography was, again, a concept that was just kind of really not a thing. I mean, it happened sometimes, but it was a chance shot. So he was able to get the photograph for Stanford. By 1877, Muybridge tried to answer Stanford's questions about gait action. I'm not sure, because I don't know a lot about race horses and everything. Kentucky Derby is about all I know. And you can, of course, flood my comments with with what it is. Because I don't know everything. Oh, goodness gracious. But he did some more shots that were in motion of this horse at a racing speed gait at this racetrack in California. And funny thing is, he captured the horse in a photograph with all 4 feet off the ground. Well, then that kind of took off, where people were like, can a horse actually run and take all 4 feet off the ground? And can all their feet be off the ground? And so it turned into kind of a betting thing, or, that could be the legend and sort of thing. And so it turned into so, they were like freaking out and everything. Well, the picture was sent, but the newspaper was like, this has been retouched, so they didn't believe anything. of it, and so everything was dropped. And yeah, the press wasn't going to say anything about it. And I don't blame them. Kind of wish people were like that today, because it would save so much, so much. So and I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, that's how it turned into this whole thing of the betting, which I still think is kind of a legend. It was just kind of, they were rejected, so they were determined, Stanford and Moybridge, if I can say his name, this photographer, were going to prove that the horse's legs, all four of them, while running, were off the ground. And so the way that Moybridge did it is along the track. I don't know if this track is still in existence. For those of you that are in, let's see, where was it? It doesn't say. Well, I'm a little sad. Okay, so he had arranged cameras along a track parallel to the horse's path. Used 24 cameras, which were 27 inches apart. Shutters were controlled by tripwires triggered by the horse's legs. The photographs were taken in succession 1/25th of a second apart, with the shutter speeds calculated to be 1/2001/2000 second. I'll of course put this in so you can... Have I been away that long? I don't know fractions anymore. Oh, holy heavens to Betsy. Now, Sally Gardner was the horse used, and the jockey's name is Dom. I'm guessing full name Dominic. I could be wrong. And so the horse was galloping at a mile per 1 minute and 40 seconds, equivalent to 36 miles per hour. So pretty much how they put this together is, after all the pictures were figured out, because I'm sure that they did this several times, maybe did this several times. You never know. I mean, photographers even back then had to have been like photographers now, because I still have stuff from when I was in college, and I have like thousands of rejects from projects. And so I'm sure that this wasn't just a one time thing. He probably went through several runs with the horse. And but once they got the pictures that they were satisfied with, I'm sure that, then they pieced this motion picture together. And that's why it's called motion picture, is because these pictures are in motion. And yeah, it's funny how that works. So the stop action photograph showed the mare lifting all four legs off the ground at certain points during the gallop. So, I mean, they pieced them together like you see them on like a, kind of like when you see portrait shots, like a series of portrait shots from photographers. It was kind of something to that effect. You see that. And but at the same time, you've seen the real kind of thing where it's turning in like a, yeah, you've seen that too, I'm sure. And so he produced his prints, and the press were satisfied with the authenticity. Scientific American was among the publications that carried the report of this groundbreaking thing. Yeah, right here. While there have been rumors that Stanford had a large bet riding on the outcome of the study, a certain historian has said, I personally believe that the story of the bet is false. There were really no primary accounts of this bet ever having taken place. Everything is hearsay and secondhand information. So I really don't believe that that would happen. I mean, it's possible maybe he did and would have. I mean, he's enough of a businessman, because he had, he was a racehorse owner and everything, and he was smart enough to keep it on the low. So, and make sure that there wasn't any paper trail. But at the same time, I don't, because of all the work involved in trying to prove it, I don't know that he would do that. And so anyway, but that's just me. So um I will make sure to put all the information for you in, and this really before I yeah, I will make sure to put all this information. I will of course put a link for you to see. I mean, it pretty much repeats itself, so there's really, I think it's like 3 seconds, and it just keeps going and going and going. You just see a horse run over and over and over and over again, but it's I mean, it's pretty interesting the fact that it happened. So, because of the fact that, someone had a question about it, and now we have motion pictures. But after this, um, of course, we ended up with that film. What was that movie? Hugo showed where the Lumiere brothers had their train, and people were pretty terrified, and because they thought that the train was actually coming at them, even though they were in a movie theater. They thought that this train was going, because it was new. I mean, that was something that had never happened before. And of course, Round Hay Garden scene, and a lot of it was like home video or documentary type um, film, until we get into Georges Méliès in the 1890s, and he started to show off more story type work, and the special effects and everything. But yeah, this was the first film. It was in the 1870s, like 78 was when it was finally released. And so again, I will make sure that all the stuff was there. It is Sally Gardner at a Gallop.